The 2015 Memorial Day Parade activities started off with a cookout at City Hall the day before, on Sunday, May 24th.
You one with the color cover? The old one with the black and white cover.
Wreaths across America had even set up an information booth here. While many contributed to get this year's parade off the ground, the city's veterans agent David Perenchief was the driving force behind it all. Also on display was a vintage half-track and Sherman tank from the Collings Foundation, which would later be used in the parade.
It's Memorial Day. This is one of the, just to see this stuff in public and see these kids get a hold of this stuff and see it in action and see it work and see a piece of history, you can't beat it.
Yeah, you really can't.
This particular Sherman tank had also been featured in the 1984 James Garner movie, Tank. Here we see the very start of the parade, which was led by the Beverly Police. City officials also marched in the parade, followed by a contingent of classic cars.
All right.
The crowd cheers as the city's two oldest living veterans are driven to Odell Park.
So first off, thank you all for coming. This is a really good turnout compared to years past, obviously. As you know, Memorial Day parades are a city function. It's really about everybody in town honoring the vets that were from here and then the vets from all around the country that have passed away or given the ultimate sacrifice. So we'd like to give some special thanks to groups that have helped us out. The Italian American Band, they should be in the back corner over there. The local Beverly High School band did a great job on the way down. The Beverly JROTC off on your left. Gentlemen from the National Guard behind me. The Beverly Fire Department Honor Guard. the Essex County Sheriff's Department, the Beverly Police Department, the Herman A. Spear Post, the Vietnam Veterans Post, and the Victoria Rocky Post for helping us out yesterday. And also you can see behind me on my right is the Yankee Division World War II reenactors. And of course, the VFW. So at this time, if you'd all please rise for the invocation given by Bob Moss.
Almighty God, Father of all mankind and Judge over nations, we ask you to bless this Memorial Day service and to look down with favor and understanding upon the hearts of those who are gathered here to pay the tribute or have made the supreme sacrifice for the benefit of all free men everywhere. The lives of those who paid the supreme sacrifice are glorified before us. Their deeds constitute a daily inspiration for those like ourselves who remain in their home communities. In God we trust, and may the faith of our fathers guide and sustain the people. God bless America. Amen.
And to sing the national anthem is our own local Angie Miller.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous sky, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly seen, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof to the night that our flag was still there. And oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Next up, we have one of our local veteran council, Jim Ladder.
How do I top that? I'll another round of applause. Ladies, gentlemen, fellow veterans, thank you for coming down here today. I think the re-establishment of parade is a resounding success. Thank you very much for all coming. I was here to just introduce the mayor, but my son just graduated from a military college, and one of his classmates is a prior service Army soldier who's been deployed, wrote this on his Facebook post, so it won't take that long. It's Memorial Day weekend, the weekend that marks the unofficial start to summer for most people. To me, it's a weekend where all over my Facebook feed, there are photos of Section 60 in Arlington. I have friends there, buried there. I've carried some of them there. Every time I hear taps, or every time I hear a certain song, or every time the sunlight glints a certain way, I remember those that never came back. So as we enjoy our parades, our cookouts, our holiday festivities, please just take a moment and remember the slim few Americans who, compared to all of, however many of us there are, gave the ultimate sacrifice. So thank you all for coming here today. Thank you for remembering, and amen, my favorite.
A couple of thanks to people who helped make today possible. D&M Civil, who provided the tractor to transport the tank. Collins Foundation, funding for the tank to be left on display. Windover Construction supported planning costs. Beverly Main Streets with the banner. Mike Collins, our head of DPW, who transported the half-track. Dan Moriarty with Colonial Brass helped us get the plaque at a discounted cost. Beacon Hospice for transporting our veterans, and Thomas Ford, 3 new vehicles to also help transport our veterans. So thanks to all those local businesses and organizations. Wow, I want to thank everybody here for making the time to be here today to remember and honor the many men and women who have served our country throughout its history. In particular, those soldiers who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. I also want to thank all who helped to organize today's ceremonies, especially Beverly's veterans. And I want to thank every veteran who is here today. I've seen a lot of you. It's tremendous that you're here, and it's our great honor to be able to thank you for your service. In fact, as Americans, remembering and thanking our fallen soldiers is one of the most important things we can do. So today I ask us all to do 2 things. First, just that. Think, reflect, and give thanks to every generation of Beverly's young men and women who courageously and patriotically answered our country's call. Every American soldier in our cities and our country's history started out as a kid growing up in a neighborhood just like yours and mine, either right here in Beverly, in some other small village, town, or big city across America, or even in another country. As children, they played on our playgrounds. They prayed in our churches and synagogues. They studied in our schools. They played Little League, sang in the school chorus, played a musical instrument, acted in the school play, marched in Memorial Day parades as Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, high school marching band members, junior ROTC members. Worked in a family business helping their parents. They were and they are our friends and classmates, our brothers and sisters, our family, our own. They studied hard. They had dreams and hopes for their future. Perhaps dreams of a life right here in Beverly. Along the way, our country called and they answered. Beverly soldiers served our country at home and abroad. They fought bravely to protect America and to protect democracy, and they still do today. And sadly, over the years, many of Beverly's young soldiers have died protecting us. Others who did make it home were changed forever by wounds both visible and invisible. Still, our veterans came home and they helped to build this community into the great hometown it is today. All our soldiers, past and present, living and deceased, deserve our thanks. The second thing that I ask today is that we all become the best citizens that we can be. Living in a democracy can be hard work. We are responsible for governing ourselves. This takes time, attention, and real effort. Effort to educate ourselves, to stay informed, and to participate actively in our government. But we owe it to our soldiers to do this with determination and with gratitude for the ultimate sacrifice so many have made to provide us this freedom. We all can be better Americans when we volunteer, when we chip in and help, when we ask questions, when we offer ideas and solutions, when we discuss and debate, when we vote, when we run for office or support candidates for office, when we educate our children to understand our country's history and its values, when we teach our children to both respect and to respectfully and thoughtfully question our leaders and our country's policies, when we teach our kids to think critically, to engage in making our community a better place, when we contribute to running our city, our state, and our country in ways both small and large. When we do these things, then we honor the young men and women of Beverly and other towns and cities all over America who gave their lives to protect the country we call home. When we do these things, we become a stronger America. Your presence here speaks volumes about how you value your role as a citizen. You all honor our military dead and our veterans with your presence and your participation. Please join with me then, and let's work every day of the year to be worthy of our soldiers' sacrifices by actively strengthening the hometown and the America that they and we love. Thank you all.
Up next we have Senator Lovely.
Thank you. Today is a day to remember. On this day each year, we come together as a community, as a commonwealth, and as a nation to honor the legacy of our servicemen and women, a legacy of unconditional patriotism and bravery. So it is with deep respect and endless gratitude that we are here today. We stand united as neighbors and citizens to commemorate the lives of all the heroes who wore the United States military uniform. These heroes answered the call of duty in an extraordinary way, and their courage will never be forgotten. They made the ultimate sacrifice to protect our great nation, our democracy, and our way of life. They served for a cause greater than themselves, their love for our country and all that it stands for. In some way, we all share a personal connection with a veteran. Some of them may still be with us, and some of them may not. We join their families and loved ones in mourning them, and we join their families and loved ones in honoring them, in honoring their selflessness, valor, and heroism. These heroic individuals were a gift to our families and to our nation, and their memory is preserved each and every Memorial Day. I'm humbled to join all of you supporting their lasting legacy. God bless all of you, and God bless America. I also bring greetings from the Governor, Charles Baker, and the Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito. A proclamation. Whereas, while the nation was still recovering from the horrors of the Civil War, people in cities and towns across the country gathered to honor those Union and Confederate soldiers who had given their lives, celebrating the first Decoration Day. And whereas, after World War I, the nation came together to honor those who had fallen in the service of their country. Renamed Memorial Day, the last Monday in May, is when people remember and honor the memory of all men and women who fought and died in all American wars and conflicts. And whereas, throughout our country's history, thousands of Massachusetts citizens have fought in wars and conflicts to defend our safety and our way of life. And whereas, their legacy of patriotism and dedication to our country is an inspiration to all Americans. And whereas, it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who gave their lives, so that their sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. Now therefore, I, Charles D. Baker, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do here proclaim May 25th, 2015 to be Memorial Day. And it is signed by His Excellency, Charles Baker. Thank you. At this time, I have the privilege of introducing the next two speakers, Bill and Janice McPherson. Bill is a World War II Navy veteran, and Janice is a Korean War veteran, having served as an Army nurse. I would like to thank both of them for serving our country. Please join me in welcoming Bill and Janice McPherson.
Good afternoon, everybody. I felt very humble when Post 331 Commander Paul Janess asked me to speak about Iwo Jima. I graduated from Beverly High in 1942, went into Boston and joined the Navy, Yeoman First Class, Dick Clancy, from Fayette Street here. He signed me up, but I had to take the papers home so my father could sign them. I was only 17. 5.5 weeks boot camp, Newport. That was great. Then on to radio school, RCA Radio School, New York City, and then on to Bainbridge, Maryland. I was assigned to the LCT 689, landing craft tanks. That's about 130 feet long. And we drilled on most of the Hawaiian Islands while we were out there. And then we were put on the deck of the LST, landing ship tank, which is 327 feet long. And we received much help from Oscar Nelson, Carpenter First Class, who lived over here on Cliff Street in Beverly. The LST 726 took on the 14th Marines, Major Watson in command. They had 75 millimeter guns. We were anchored off at Kaneohe Air Base. El McKenis, one of the ship's cooks, and myself used to go ashore with 3 Marines. There's a first lieutenant who was a Mustang, come up through the ranks, sergeant from Long Island, New York, and a corporal from Pennsylvania. We put out to sea. Now in the middle of the Pacific, there's an area called Hoss Latitudes. There's not a whisper of air out there. And at night, the temperature drops down to 90 degrees. Guess who got stalled for a day and a half? Thank you very much. We assembled for the invasion to Iwo. There were carriers, battle wagons, cruisers, tin cans, transports, everything you could think of. And on the way up, there was a confirmed sinking of a Japanese submarine. On the morning of the attack on 19 February, the 75 millimeter guns were put ashore, and the ammo was put in the ducks and taken ashore. There were 2 LSTs that were outfitted with doctors and pharmacist mates to stabilize the wounded Marines before they went to the hospital ships. They were overwhelmed by the number of casualties. Wounded were being brought to any LST that was available. Our skipper of LST 726 volunteered his radioman to run extra amphibious frequencies. You never volunteer for anything. You learn that at boot camp. Being the lead radioman, it was my job to set up extra watches. That first night I was headed for the tank deck, and I passed by sick bay. And there was a sergeant from Long Island. He had lost a leg. The second morning, I was on the port side of the LST 726, and there was an LCI, Landing Craft Infantry, and it had the word press painted on the bow of the ship. And in the bow, there was Secretary of the Navy, Forrestal, Lieutenant Commander, Lieutenant General, I just demoted him. Lieutenant General Smith. They had their binoculars and they were chasing over what was happening right up there on the beach. Now the press was very benevolent. They said we were kicking the daylights out of them. That wasn't the truth. They were giving us a bad time. That night I received a message that there were 4 mines floating just offshore. So we had to back off because we still had ammo on board. And one of the mines exploded and hit debris in the water. few hours later, we got the okay, they had drifted north. There were 4 LSMs, landing ship median, on the far right-hand side of the beach. This is the east side of the other now we're talking about. All 4 LSMs were hit. I told them I had 2 ocean-going tugs coming in from Guam. The radioman that I was talking to said that they would sink if they were pulled off of the beach. Jack Wenzel of Lenox Street was the radioman that I was talking to. We got together in 1946 and compared things. Lo and behold, we never realized it. We were both from Beverly here. The next day, the ammo was gone, and the LST-726 was asked to use their 40mm guns on a certain area. We went up 4 or 5 times until we got hit. Then we had to back off. The Marines were having trouble with the enemy. They would use their guns and then roll back and hide under cover. They asked the Navy and Marine pilots to come in low to draw the Marines out. And this seemed to work. On the 23rd, we were up on the beach and saw a group of Marines lift a pole with a small American flag on top of it, up there on Mount Suribachi. A little bit later, a Jeep came down to the beach. There were 2 LSTs on the beach. There was a 726 to the right with our bow doors closed, but the Jeep went to the other one on our left where they had their ramp out and the bow doors open. And they picked up the bigger American flag, which was brought to the top. And sure enough, it was raised up, and that's where the famous picture of the raising of the flag over Mount Suribachi was taken. Almost every night, the Navy was asked to send up parachute flares, and they would light up the area that the Marines wanted. There were World War I battleships in New York and Texas, and they were sending their 12-inch shells up there at Suribachi. Because of the flares, you could see them bouncing around there. Some of them would hit the very top, skim off, and land on the other side in the water. The first lieutenant was killed the second day ashore. The corporal from Pennsylvania died the day before. One of the worst messages I ever got was that a triage center set up by the doctors and pharmacist mates for the wounded was wiped out by a mortar barrage. After Iwo Jima, we went to Cebu, Samar, and Leyte in the Philippines. We picked up members of the 77th Division. After Japan surrendered, our skipper opened the safe and took out the sealed orders. We were going in on the first wave at Southern Honshu. Thank you, President Harry Truman, for your decision. In closing, I want to thank each and every one of you here today for honoring our veterans. And may God watch over all of you service people. Thank you, one and all.
Speaking of tough, Mr. McPherson recently just had a heart attack. So let's talk about the grit of the greatest generation who survived the Great Depression, a world war, and he's still walking around. Up next, I'd like to call out Dan Moriarty. Dan, where are you? We're starting a new tradition here in Beverly this year. One where each year we're going to honor the oldest veterans in the city on Memorial Day, and then on Veterans Day we will honor our youngest veteran. So Colonial Brass, I contacted them a couple months ago to start producing the plaque. Let me tell you, this thing weighs a ton. Still waiting on Dan. Dan? Everyone yell Dan. Dan! Please! Mr. Moriarty let me know that this plaque, as you can see, we tried to think of the easiest way to join the generations of veterans. And it turns out that the easiest way to describe it is one generation looking after the other. Many of us had parents who either served or grandparents who helped raise us, and then we join, then we serve, and as they get older, we turn around and take care of them, so on and so forth. So that's why we went with the one generation looking after the other. This plaque had to be recast 3 times. Dan, who's a Marine and whose son's also in the military, refused to let it come out of quality control until it was perfect. So, as time goes on, we're going to get a set of dog tags made for our oldest veterans, which will hang on one side, and then a set of dog tags made for our youngest veteran, which will hang on the other side. So now, since I can't give our oldest veterans a 65-pound plaque to take home, we had 2 lighter ones made for them. So one of these will be given to each of the oldest veterans in the city, Mr. John Condon and Arthur Denau. What you should also know is that these are our Grand Marshals for the day. So give them a round of applause for our Grand Marshals. And I was just informed today that we have another gentleman who's almost 95, but he'll still get a good mention, Mr. Stuart Hadley. He's 94 and a half. I'm just going to say 95. Up next, it's time for us to remember those who we've lost. We'll have Mr. Jerry Jalebi and Mr. Bob Laws read the names of the veterans we've lost this year.
We're going to be reading the deceased for this year from the Memory Spear Post 331. I apologize in advance if there are any family members out there and I mispronounced the family's last name. Robert Rowengard, Stephen Chapman, Frank Costa, Henry Desmond, Kenneth Field, Jeffrey Howlett, Thomas Martucci, John McKenna, William Naylor, Victor Phillips, Paul Picard, Arthur Roderick, Guy Rossi, W.C. Tannenbrink Jr., Theodore J. Terzakis, George H. Tingley, Milton Whalen, George W. Bertucci, Ernest W. Freiberg.
This is a list of the Victoria Rocky Post members who have died since last Memorial Day. Kenneth R. Raymond Wynock, Gordon Douglas Zwicker, Victor Terrio, Albert Mariscalchi, Guy L. Rossi, Mario Fortunato, Ed Bushy, Emile J. Dulong, William Daly, Bob Nadeau, Frederick M. Prodian, Thomas Marcucci, Nick No, Robert Pelici, Michael Pacini Jr., Anthony Jake Ricky, Tony Pisa, Francis P. Armetto, Emilio J. Albano, Norm Gregory, Donald Allen, George Bertucci, Dominic Cecilio, Eugene S. Yankus, Silvio Salvinelli, Steve Rusty Jerome. On the Michael J. Cadigan Post, American Legion Post 46, Jeffrey Chapman, Ronaldo Rennie Ambry, Robert J. Red Butman, Philip Sampson, Ralph A. Fiore, Daniel Reyna. There are no deaths from the VFW, Stephen Puccinato, Post 545, and there are no deaths to report from the Beverly Vietnam Veterans Post number 1. Thank you.
That, we bring up Mr. Bob Wallace for a closing prayer.
Please all uncover. Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we ask that your blessing be bestowed on our friends and loved ones. We thank you for this opportunity to share with them this special occasion to honor our veterans on this Memorial Day. Let us always honor in memory of those brave soldiers who gave the supreme sacrifice so that we may experience freedom in a country that is always free. Amen.
Hey everybody, thank you for coming out for the 2015 Memorial Day Remembrance. Just so you know, everything you see here today will be on display up at the Herman A. Spear Post. We will have food and drinks, so please come up, see the classic cars, come hang out with the veterans, and we'll be continuing the parade, so you're welcome to follow behind. The other streets that we've come down will be reopened, so if you need to park, you can park on the streets up in Cabot and everything. Thank you for coming.
Well, my name is Ryan Mello. I'm almost a lifelong resident of Beverly. I lived in Texas for a little bit when I got out of the Army. I joined out of here in 2005. I'm a Beverly High School class of 2005. I was in Iraq twice. I was a track vehicle mechanic, and anything to hop on one of these things and go for a ride, have some fun. And this is my bread and butter. This is what I did for work. 8 years of work with this thing. It's awesome. It's awesome to see these things that the old ones going. The stuff that they taught us on at AIT, it's great. It's great. The nostalgia involved, the energy inside of one of these, it's just, you can't beat it. Cool. You can't beat it.